Hello and welcome to LFC Focus. The international break is finally over, thank God, and it is gone for many months now. So we can all forget about that and we can get back to the football that really matters, and that is the football played by Liverpool Football Club, our beloved football team. And of course, Liverpool are playing Southampton this weekend at Anfield in the Premier League on Saturday at 3 PM in what is a deceptively huge game. Because of course, coming back from the international break, Liverpool haven't really been good at hitting the ground running in recent times. I mean, it's been a typical pattern that we struggle at the start and then we really build up a head of steam. We start to settle into a groove. Things are going really well and then bang, international break, 2 weeks off. Everyone goes off to play for their respective nations. They come back and play like complete strangers. It's happened twice already this season. I mean, we had the return against Man City where we lost 5-0. We had the return against Man United where we drew 0-0 and then we lost to Spurs 4-1 a week after that, which was very disappointing as well. And then towards the end of the last period of club football, Liverpool were really finding their feet. They were finding a rhythm. They won 3 games in a row, scored 10 goals and only conceded 1 over that period. And things really looked like they were going incredibly well for the club at last. And it was really important that Liverpool don't let that progress fall by the wayside with this game against Southampton, because not only is it important to pick up every 3 points that's available to you in the Premier League, you've also got massive games coming up against Sevilla in the Champions League in midweek, where we could pretty much secure our passage to the round of 16. And then after that against Chelsea, which at the moment is looking like a bit of a 6-pointer, with Chelsea 3 points ahead of us in the table and in 4th spot, which is that Champions League place that we so desperately want come the end of the season. So it's hugely important that Liverpool get off to an absolute flyer in this game. And with regards to team news, things are looking pretty good for Liverpool after the international break, which is nice because normally they don't. We had a huge scare with Sadio Mane. Jurgen Klopp obviously threw him back into the lineup in the game against West Ham when it was slightly 50-50 over whether or not he was actually ready to start in the starting 11 for Liverpool. Klopp threw him in. He did really well. He helped change the game. He added an extra dimension to the play. He went off with Senegal and it looked like he might have got injured again. We're all very worried. It looked like maybe Jurgen Klopp had jumped the gun a little bit by throwing him back into the team and that hamstring problem was going to recur. For now, it looks like Sadio Mane is going to be ready for the Liverpool game at the weekend because he was in full training today. He's been doing absolutely fine by the sounds of it, and hopefully he will be fit and ready to start at the weekend. Adam Lallana as well is another player who's had a close eye kept on him over the international break because he has, of course, been laid off with injury since the very start of the competitive season. We haven't seen him yet in a competitive match, so that's very exciting, the prospect of him playing. He's been in full training. He's been doing okay. I'm not entirely sure whether he's going to start this game though, because I just think with the amount of time that he's been laid off and the fact that first of all, you don't really know how fit he's going to be going into this game because it is completely different playing in training as it is to playing in an actual Premier League match. We know that Jurgen Klopp gave him a sort of a tester match where they played a behind closed doors friendly to see how Adam Lallana was getting on. So Jurgen Klopp should have a decent idea of whether or not he's ready. But I just think throwing him in the starting lineup, as well with the fact that we don't really know what kind of form he's going to show. You know, Adam Lallana last season, he was really good at the start. He dropped away a little bit towards the end of the season where he was still good, but he just wasn't amazing like he was at the start of the season. It might be a little bit risky to place too much responsibility on Lallana's shoulders as soon as he comes back from injury. But the plus point is that he's fit and ready and hopefully should play at least some part in the game. In other injury news, we obviously know about Nathaniel Klein now. A bit annoying news with that really, because at first it seemed like he might be back around November, December time, but with his surgery, he's now going to be back more around February, which is really annoying. But fortunately for Liverpool, we have got some good options with Gomez and Alexander-Arnold at right back, so it doesn't hit us too hard. I mean, in the grand scheme of things, if you had to pick a player who is going to be laid off until February, Nathaniel Klein would be fairly high on the list. You know, it's better than having Mo Salah or Coutinho injured. And in other news, Jurgen Klopp is nice and healthy. Obviously, he had a little bit of an illness scare, had to go to hospital on Wednesday, but apparently he is fine. He took training today, so hopefully all is well, but fingers crossed for our lovely manager's health on that one. So as for how I think the squad's actually going to line up, I think it's going to be a Mignolet in goal. Absolutely no surprises whatsoever there. Centre-backs, I think it's probably going to be Matip and Lovren and then Gomez playing at right back, because there has been a big shout for Joe Gomez moving into the centre-back spot this week because he's performed so well as a centre-back in a back three for England. He looks like he's doing really well, and with the issues that Liverpool do have with their centre-backs at the moment and the centre-back pairing of Matip and Lovren, it would make sense to try Joe Gomez at centre-back because he'd probably do a pretty decent job there. But the issue for me is that I don't think Gomez could be a long-term solution at centre-back until Nathaniel Clyne comes back, because this rotational policy between Gomez and Trent Alexander-Arnold has served us really well so far this season. It's done really well in terms of the fact that they both offer something different. They both need a little bit of rotation, with them being in the early developmental stages of their careers. And while I'd like to see Joe Gomez at centre-back, with the festive fixture period coming up, which is one of the most congested periods of the year, we can't just rely on Alexander-Arnold playing at right back, and I think it would be kind of silly to put Gomez at centre-back one game, at right back the other, and keep alternating, because you want as much stability in your back four as possible. And that's kind of one of the reasons that I'm going with Gomez at right back in this game over Trent Alexander-Arnold as well, because of all the games coming up, with Sevilla and Chelsea coming up as well, this is the game that probably best suits Trent Alexander-Arnold. But because Gomez performed so well in the international break, and because I think Liverpool are struggling for some defensive stability, I think it makes sense to go with Gomez at right back and keep him as first choice for now, with Alexander-Arnold acting as a backup until he can develop himself a little bit further and get a little bit further on in his Liverpool career. And then completing the back four, I think at left back it's going to be Moreno. I mean, there's a shout for Robertson. I mean, again, like Alexander-Arnold, of the 3 games coming up, this is the one that you'd most likely play Robertson in. But Robertson has struggled a little bit with breaking teams down when we've played against teams like Burnley or Crystal Palace. He always puts in a good performance. He always has a lot of energy and a lot of ideas, but crossing is his main strength. And sadly, Southampton have got some big centre-backs and Liverpool haven't got many big centre-forwards. So I think unless you're playing someone like Dom Solanke or even Daniel Sturridge or Origi whenever he comes back, it doesn't really make sense for me to play Robertson in this game. So I'd go with Moreno as well for some defensive stability. And then the midfield 3, I think it's going to be Henderson in the number 6 role, and then Wijnaldum and Coutinho either side of him. Like I mentioned with Adam Lallana earlier, there is the possibility that he could start this game. I don't think it would be the worst thing in the world if he did do that. And given how much Southampton have sat back in the past, particularly playing against us at Anfield, obviously we played them 4 times last season and we didn't score once, we could probably do with an extra creative player in midfield to partner Phil Coutinho and provide that little bit more spark going forward to basically turn the front 4 into a front 5 sort of thing. But I just think placing that responsibility on Lallana's shoulders as soon as he comes back from injury for the vast majority of the 90 minutes might be a little bit too risky. So I think if you put Wijnaldum in there, he's still got a creative spark. He plays well at home. He's got a bit of muscle as well. And then I think if things do get hairy, or if we just want to do so for the sake of it, you can always bring on Adam Lallana towards the end of the game and probably give him about half an hour, I think, and then maybe give him a start against Sevilla or Chelsea next week. And then the front 3 picks itself at the moment. I think it's going to be Mane, I think it's going to be Firmino, and it's definitely going to be Mo Salah, because how can you leave that man out at the moment? I mean, there's this shout that we could go for the kind of 4-2-2/4-2-4 formation that we played against West Ham that worked really well. But I think that was kind of due to circumstance and due to the players available. And I think at the moment it makes sense for Liverpool to stick with the 4-3-3. And then if things don't go well, we can shuffle things up and maybe bring out that 4-2-4. So looking at Southampton then, they've been fairly average so far this season. They haven't set the world on fire. They haven't been rubbish. They've just been solid, mid-table, picking up points here and there and doing fairly all right. I mean, when you look at how they're doing at various areas of the pitch, they're pretty good defensively. They are a pretty solid team at the back, and they're pretty rubbish in attack. So it's highly likely that Southampton are going to do what they did so many times against us last season. I think they are going to park the bus. They're going to look to defend. They're probably going to want to snatch either a 1-0 or a 0-0 draw in this game. And I think the main thing for Liverpool that should hopefully tip the balance of this game in our favour is the fact that they are missing Mario Lemina, who is a pivotal player for Southampton. He plays in defensive midfield as well. He's a bit of a Pirlo apparently, in that he kind of does that regista role, if you'll forgive the overzealous football manager term there, where he's a deep-lying playmaker, so it should affect their attack as well. But his primary role, I think, is defending, being a bit of a sweeper in front of that back 4 maybe, and the fact that he is missing for them in this game should hopefully make it easier for Liverpool to break Southampton down and get at their centre-backs a little bit more. So with Liverpool really needing to pick up 3 points in this game, I have a lot of faith in the team. I really think we're going to do it this weekend. So here are my 3 reasons why I think Liverpool will beat Southampton on Saturday. First of all, Liverpool showed in their last 3 games before the international break that they are actually getting really good at breaking down teams who park the bus. I mean, those games against Huddersfield and Maribor particularly at Anfield were a great example of how maybe just being a little bit more patient and being a little more slow in our approach is actually a really good idea. I mean, I remember Paul Machin of the Redmen TV on Twitter said, I think it was either at half-time against Huddersfield or Maribor, he was saying, I think we're playing within ourselves a little bit here and we'll come out a bit more in the second half. And I think that is the plan for Liverpool. And I remember in the 2013-14 season where Liverpool loved to blitz teams in the first 20 minutes, whereas what Man City did was they let the opponent sit back, they let them soak up a bit of pressure and then really went for the jugular in the second half. And given that Jurgen Klopp builds his philosophy around his players being really fit, really healthy, really strong, and being able to go the full 90 minutes playing the same gegenpressing style of football, it kind of makes sense that you can let the opponent wear themselves out in the first half and then really go for them in the second. And we saw that against Huddersfield and we saw that against Maribor, where we just waited, we bided our time, and then when it got to the second half and they were a little bit more worn out, we really went for it, we got the goals and we ended up winning the game comfortably. And I think with Southampton probably going to sit back quite a lot in this game, I can imagine we're probably going to do the same thing, although it would be nice if they did a West Ham and absolutely shot themselves in the feet in the first half. And second of all, if I had to pick anyone who is going to be the key man in this game, and if anyone who knows anything about football had to pick a key man for this game, it's going to be Mo Salah. It has to be Mo Salah. Mo Salah is the absolute man at the moment. I mean, he absolutely blitzed West Ham. He's doing incredibly well, scoring so many goals. He's level with Lukaku now for the amount of goals scored this season. He's scored 12 in 17 appearances, which is just insane. That's like, I think, the same as Fernando Torres and probably more than Luis Suarez had at this stage of his Liverpool career. And he just brings an extra dimension as well. It's not just goal scoring. You know, he's got that pace. He can drift out wide. He can come inside. He can help out his teammates. He can dribble around the opposition, he can pass the ball around, and he scores those goals as well. So he is just an all-round brilliant player and a fantastic Klopp signing in that Jurgen Klopp sometimes he doesn't look at problems with the club in the way that many people would. I mean, if you looked at Liverpool and said they've got a problem scoring goals, normally you'd think, okay, sign a number 9. Jurgen Klopp hasn't done that. He thought, okay, we'll sign a winger. And it's worked out absolutely brilliantly, and I think Mo Salah will be the key for Liverpool in this game as well. And finally, the fact that Liverpool seem to have developed a plan B for when they can't break down teams fills me with optimism for this game, because while I mentioned earlier that we seem to have adapted our plan against teams who park the bus to being a lot more patient and biding our time, sometimes that 4-3-3 system just doesn't really work. And we saw against West Ham how Jurgen Klopp can be willing to switch around his lineup. He switched from that to the aforementioned sort of 4-2-2/4-2-4 formation that really worked and got the best out of players like Mo Salah in that more central role. Oxlade-Chamberlain playing out wide and being afforded a little more space by having Mo Salah next to him as well. It really worked incredibly well, and it meant that West Ham didn't really know what to expect from us. And I think Liverpool last season became a little bit too much of a one-trick pony. It was kind of like, if teams knew how to stop us, then they could do it for as long as they possibly wanted, and we'd need to get a lucky break to actually score goals. And the fact that we know how to shake things up, and we know how to maybe change up with personnel and formation as well, fills me with optimism that if things aren't going great in the game against Southampton and we are struggling to break through, then we know how to get that all-important first goal and hopefully win the game. So that is all for today's video. Thank you guys very much for watching. I'm sorry there haven't been so many videos for over 2 weeks now. Just uni and deadlines and essays came up. It was quite annoying. I would have much more preferred to have just been sat here doing videos, but that is life, I'm afraid. But thankfully there are no more essays or deadlines until the new year, so there'll be a steady stream of top quality content between now and Christmas time. So thank you very much for watching. I'll be back tomorrow with the FIFA predictor for this game, so stay tuned for that. If you're not subscribed to the channel, then hit that subscribe button. Check out some of the other videos that have been out on the channel as well. Don't forget to follow at LFC Focus TV on Twitter, and I'll see you tomorrow for the FIFA predictor. Bye for now.